In this video, I'm going to teach you 10 of the biggest lessons I've learned from the last 3 years of running my video podcast studio. A few days ago, I posted a poll about what types of content you guys would like to see from this channel moving forward. It seemed pretty overwhelming that the majority of you were interested in more business-focused content. So in this video and in future videos, we're going to try to touch on this stuff a little bit more. Lesson 1 is I treated this business more like a side project when I should have dove in a bit more. Now, while I want everyone to jump into this business at their own pace and own rate and not put yourself in any sort of financial strain, I found that I was very hesitant to spend money on new equipment, on advertising, and it really slowed my growth for the first year. And while I always recommend that people either have some sort of existing business or other income that can help support them as they start a new venture, which is advice that I think anyone would give other entrepreneurs, I don't want you to underspend and set yourself into more of a budget studio environment, because I think that over the long run, it's just not gonna work out as well. Take a venture like this seriously and dedicate time daily, weekly, monthly to work on the business as well as in it. Lesson number 2, I spent way too long just being a single set. And if you either liked it or you didn't. And I realized I was probably missing out on a whole different set of clientele that was looking just for a slightly different look. And with an innovation of what we call Megadesk now on the channel, having multiple sets is increasingly cheaper and easier to do just because you now have all the equipment stationed on one desk. You don't have to buy multiple sets of things. Even if you have a small space, being able to come up with a couple of different set options is really a valuable tip. Nowadays, our original studio spot is booked less than most of our other sets, and so I really encourage you guys to experiment, play around with things, change things up. You never know what people are gonna like. It's really easy to pull other ideas from other studios for what you can do at your own. I'm not an interior designer, and I felt like I spent a lot of time in analysis paralysis about what chairs, what furniture, what look was gonna do the best, and I really just encourage people to dive in a little bit more, buy some furniture from Wayfair, not spend a whole lot of money, and just get things up and running. You can tweak as things go on, but definitely go ahead and experiment with some different set options and looks. I hate to interrupt the video, but we do have to pay the bills, so today's sponsor is Riverside. Now, many of you are already familiar with Riverside, but what you might not know is just how quickly they're evolving to become an essential tool for creators and podcasters. Now, this month alone, Riverside has rolled out a bunch of new exciting features and tools. And the highlight is their new live streaming capabilities. Now you can stream to multiple platforms simultaneously with just one click and in 1080p. And of course, what's a live stream without some enhancements, right? Riverside now offers custom branding, lower thirds, comment highlights, all to make your streams stand out. Not into live streaming? No problem. Riverside's robust yet simple editor is perfect for streamlining your video editing workflow, making it possible for anyone, even those with no experience or equipment, to produce high quality podcast videos. Their AI tools like Magic Clips and Smooth Speech speed up editing, automatically removing ums and uhs and giving your recording a polished and professional edge. Plus, they've got built-in royalty-free music to add your perfect touch of warmth and emotion to your show. Riverside is really just one of the platforms that's constantly evolving to be the best all-in-one solution for creators. We've been using Riverside at our studio almost from the start, and it's now become an irreplaceable asset for us. If you're ready to dive into the Riverside ecosystem, they have a special offer for you. Check the link in the description. Use the code ANOVADIGITAL and get an exclusive 15% off your paid plan. Now, back to the video. Lesson number 3, make booking time for your studio online and easy. I spent the first 6 months of this business working with clients back and forth via email about what time was best for them, how much it was gonna cost, sending them an invoice, and it really just became such a headache for me and for them, and really didn't make the process easy at all. Nowadays, we use Square Appointments as our appointment setting tool, and it's really transformed the business. Now people can just go on our website, find a time that works for them, select the studio, it'll take their payment up front, they'll get a nice notification on their end that the payment and the reservation went through. We'll get an updated calendar invite on our end, so it prevents other people from booking that same time. And it's really an automated process that happens, and it's really, really great just to look at your phone and see, hey, look, some money came in, somebody booked, without having to talk to them, without having to deal with the back and forth, and it really just makes a great experience for you as a business owner as well as for the client booking. Lesson number 4 is that the small details really do matter. Now, when it comes to the sets, having a little bit of extra lights, little doodads, little tchotchkes throughout the space really helps set it apart. I think I was hesitant to do this initially because I thought that people might not vibe with certain things, but I think having a space that looks a little bit more fleshed out, put together, and homely, I guess, really helps set things apart. Again, Studio 2 is our best-selling spot, and we really did a good job of making it feel like a home environment, more of a lounge, more of a relaxing setup than our Studio 1 setup that we were running before. And then it comes to the equipment, having good framing is absolutely crucial, and I see so many studios mess this part up. I'm not gonna do a masterclass on framing theory, but you should really look into some typical studio interview setups and apply that to yours. Make sure that when you are framing up your guests, that you have enough space to pull a vertical out. A lot of people that come in to record, while we record in 16:9, they'll want to be able to pull out vertical social clips and reels. So being able to capture that as well is super important. Another thing that we picked up that has really made a good difference for us and for other clients is a clock. Now I know it's probably kind of wild to think that we didn't have a clock to kind of track time before. Most people would end up having their cell phone on the desk or with them to begin with, but having a clock that's facing them, that when we start the recording, we start that, it does a good job of showing them where they kind of are in their episode, and you'd be surprised how many times people will go for 45 minutes and think it was 20. And so this gives them a good way to pace themselves and the conversation on the podcast, and this also prevents them from going over their allotted time. Now another small thing is just trying to make it a very white glove experience. Now it's a little confusing to get up to our unit, but one thing that we always try to do is we meet people downstairs. We don't ask them to buzz in through our intercom system and walk up to the unit themselves. We like to meet them and their guests downstairs and really just feel like a warm, inviting environment from the start. And then when they get up to our unit, we go out of our way to make sure that they feel like they have everything that they need. We point out the bathrooms. We ask if we can get them water, coffee, maybe an alcoholic drink that we have on hand, anything that we can give them to make them feel like they're really settling in for a good experience with us. We also reach out to new clients via phone before their reservation time, just to make sure that they have a chance to ask any questions about how things work so they're not going in blind. Number 5, find someone to help out with editing. Now I was pretty good moving into this business that I knew I wasn't gonna wanna deal with the constant podcast editing, clip editing, and all that sort of stuff. Now obviously everyone's not gonna have the luxury of being able to afford having additional help in the beginning, but you should make this a priority as something to get off of your desk early on. It's really just not the best use of your time as the business owner. You really should be focusing on acquiring new clients and dealing with some of the other back-end business stuff and not the editing. Luckily, there are a lot of people in this line of work, and you can find freelancers on sites like Fiverr or Upwork that usually can do pretty good video editing for fairly cheap. But if you're able to afford it, I think finding someone that is local and part-time is gonna be a better long-term solution. Having someone in the studio with you is gonna be better synergy between the two of you. You'll be able to better explain your expectations and project manage while having somebody in your own space, as well as having them potentially run the sessions themselves is gonna free up a whole bunch of your time. So again, you can go work on the business and not in the business. Luckily, nowadays with AI, there are a lot of tools that make editing easier if you still have to be the one to do it. One of the tools we use here at the studio all the time to cut down on editing is Opus. Opus does a great job of coming up with some AI-generated clips that obviously can be adjusted as needed, but Opus really takes a lot of the legwork out of producing clips for clients. Another big tip is use the live cut as much as you can. And I see a lot of studios that offer the isolated tracks and then take that into Autopod and do that. We are pretty big believers here that the live cut is the best cut. It's the easiest, it's the most streamlined, and honestly, I think a lot of clients prefer having that opposed to going back and editing it. I'm sure their editors like that as well. Spend some time, get good, learn how conversations just work, and before you know it, you'll be live cutting like a champ. Lesson number 6 was not offering other types of content creation from our studio. When I started this, I really only advertised it as a podcasting studio, which was kind of silly because I got into this business from running a video company before, so I knew how to make video content. I just really pushed people to just do podcasting here. But nowadays, our general studio content SKU is one of our most popular ones, and we do tons of work in business for just producing content for other content creators, influencers, and things of that nature. It usually goes into the exact same sets and has very similar shooting practices to it, but it's a way that we can generate additional money and really offer a different service to our clients. And some of the things that we would like to be offering in the future that we just can't quite do with our space currently is we would love to get into any sort of event-based stuff or workshops. We think there's gonna be a big market for doing launch events and small, intimate gatherings, whether it's for podcasting or just internal business-related stuff. Being able to facilitate small events, I think is gonna be a big step for us moving forward. Lesson number 7 is why stick to one niche? I think it's very common when getting into business, people tell you to focus in one certain area. And we're friends with a lot of studios that either would rather work with podcasters themselves or businesses or this or that. And to me, I say, for what? We work with all types of clients, we treat them the same, and everybody pretty much gets billed the same as our pricing's online. So what is the difference if it is a big company or just a little podcaster? In fact, it actually makes our day-to-day a little bit more enjoyable. We get to listen to a wide variety of content from different people. And if I have to be honest, usually business clients are a little bit more dull and boring, and it's our typical kind of podcast clients that actually get us laughing off screen. Lesson number 8 is location is really, really big. And now this doesn't necessarily just mean where you are if you're in a big city or a small city, but we'll get into that in a second. If possible, I highly encourage people to be in more populated areas. Obviously, this increases the chance that there are more businesses and individuals that will be podcasting in that. As we're based in Chicago here, we're the 3rd largest metropolitan area in the US. And so because of that, we have lots of businesses and people that are interested in starting podcasts. However, we do have a lot of people within the studio business community that are in smaller areas and that are really able to make a good living doing that. Because they're in a small town, there's just less competition and there's still tons of opportunity. Back to the physical location of it, it's really important though that you're in a nice building in a professional setting. I can't tell you how many people come into our building that is actually quite old and, in my opinion, not that nice, and be like, wow, the architecture here is so cool, and they get kind of a fun experience just walking up. It has free parking outside, which for Chicago is pretty rare. It's a little bit off the beaten path, but it's still very much in a city center. We do know a couple other studios that are more in the suburbs, and it's just a little bit more of an uphill battle to get people in there. Being within a city is a really important thing. And then when it relates to the actual physical studio itself, if you can, make sure that it is an enjoyable environment to be in. Sounds basic, but whatever you can do to make it look upscale is really important. For most people, this is a premium service and something that they absolutely do not have to do. And so you really want to give it the illusion that it is grand, big, exciting, and nice. Nobody wants to go into a place that feels dirty, dingy, and like you threw it together with some tape. Lesson number 9, and probably one of the ones that might be a little bit more controversial, is don't negotiate. Simply don't negotiate on price, offering, or client demands. We never really do sales out of principle. It's just a point to the price is always going to remain the same. We don't want to deal with the ups and downs that come with running a sale and then the down times of when that sale's off and everybody's like, well, I'll just wait for the next sale. That way, clients know what they're expected to pay and we know what we're getting from the clients. Another thing that's common in nearly every business is what we call tire kickers. Now, I really encourage you to, with that, whatever business you're in, don't fall for the, if this goes well, we'll have more work for you type conversations. We get calls fairly often from people that, hey, I'm looking for a studio, I'm this influencer. If this goes well, I'll have a lot of work for you. In my experience of running the podcast studio as well as a video company and other businesses even before that, those people typically are not the ones that are going to refer any work to you to begin with. If they are automatically asking for a discount or an above and beyond service just because of their status or because they think that they're this great opportunity, it's really a red flag, and don't cave on those demands. It's a good rule of thumb is if you have red flags and if somebody feels like they're going to be a problem from the start, they'll continue to be one. I know it's common to think that, hey, maybe I'll just push through and maybe they will be a good opportunity, but I can really tell you from experience, it rarely, if ever, goes that way. Another big tip is fire clients that suck. Now, luckily, we've had now hundreds of clients and we've had very few that have been problematic, but just recently, we did end up firing our very first client, and I'll briefly tell the story of that because I think there's some good lessons just from that story itself. So this client reached out to us and wanted to tour the studio. Totally cool, we're happy to do it. But from the last minute cancellation on the first one, to booking the second one, to having that canceled, to the third one, to hey, I'm stuck in traffic, we'll have to do it another time. And then the lies were basically on the wall about, hey, I'm in traffic, but I'm also at home and I'm coming, but I'm not quite there. It wasted our time and really gave me red flags to begin with. But finally, the tour went off. She seemed great. We started working with her. And then throughout the next 11 episodes together over the next couple of months, she was notoriously late, Because she was booking so much, I really let her get away with a whole lot. She was also notorious for going over the allotted time. She would be 30 to an hour late for her session and then expect us to start the clock when she got there and not from when she set her own reservation time. And so if you find that you're working with people just like that, I highly encourage you to either put them on a PIP or a performance improvement plan or give them the boot, because they're really just not worth your time. On that note, it's really important to protect yourself from work that is unpaid. Now, this can go in a couple of different directions, but typically people are paying for time here. They pay for a 90-minute block. If you are late, that is your problem. Now, obviously, we're not gonna beat you up for a couple of minutes on either side. We usually block off 2 hours on our calendar for the reservation, and if we have nobody in behind you, you get even a little bit more leniency. But if you show up 30 minutes late to your session and take 15 minutes to get going because you're pouring drinks, talking with your buddies, all this sort of stuff, that is time that we are ready to go and wasting away because of your poor planning. So you really do need to let people know that, hey, if you go over the time that you've set, you will be charged. And finally, lesson number 10 is learn from others. Now, this is a local business, so as long as they aren't right down the street, your other competitors are really actually your friends. I highly encourage you guys to reach out to them, follow them on Instagram, and really you can use them for inspiration for your own sets, for your own business, take inspiration from them and work to grow together. Thanks to this YouTube channel, we've been able to befriend tons of other studio owners in this business. It's been very rewarding being friends and talking with them and sharing ideas. So much so that a couple of months ago, I decided to kind of rework our business, change this YouTube channel from what was formerly Innova Digital, my video company, and transform it into the studio business, which is really a resource for guys just like you that are thinking about starting a studio or have a studio and really want to make the most out of it. So in addition to doing all of these YouTube videos, we have a dedicated community off of YouTube called The Studio Business, which is a collective of tons of other studio owners literally from all over the world. And we bring them together and we share ideas and talk about a whole bunch of different stuff. This isn't some private Discord, this isn't a Facebook group, this is really something totally different. In addition to the community aspect and being able to just rub elbows with a bunch of other people that are doing the exact same stuff that you are, we have tons of other content that we don't post on this YouTube that is exclusive to the group. We do one-on-one interviews with other studio owners and people from the industry. We also host a whole bunch of lessons from industry leaders talking about starting your own podcast, equipment side of stuff, business growth, and tons of other topics. So if you've made it to the end of this video and you are thinking or already in the process of running your own studio, I highly encourage you to check out our group. You can find out how to get involved in the link below. All right, guys, that'll wrap up this video. I hope that you enjoyed. If you did, let me know in the comments below. If you have a suggestion on other videos that we can do moving forward, again, drop those down below and we'll see you on the next one.